Hey everyone, and a warm welcome to all of you for joining us from around the world. We are grateful and honored to have such a diverse group of participants, and we look forward to having an engaging discussion on today's topic, that is uh, designing tomorrow's classroom today, with focus on Tpack and the hybrid imperatives. Dr. Shahid from American University of Barbados has worked immensely in this field, and I'll request our Dr. Shabir Zardari to actually introduce him to the audience, please.
Well, thank you, Kiran, and thank you everybody who's joined and those who will be joining shortly. I mean, Shahid is an exceptional person. I've known him for about 35, 40 years. We worked together in Pakistan as he is an ENT as well. He's also responsible for running the Journal of Otolaryngology, and we worked together in WHO as well when I used to do the camps in different countries, like in Terais of Nepal, in Sanduli, in Bangladesh. So we've been together for a he's a very reliable confidant, my right-hand person. A thorough gentleman. So his wife was also an educator, also my old comrade. Um, Shahid moved on from otolaryngology to medical education many years ago when he was in Malaysia. And then he did masters from Maastricht University with a special interest in assessment and evaluation, though he has worked intensely in curriculum innovation, technology, pedagogy, andragogy, technogogy, and all the fields. It is always a pleasure to listen to him. He's a mine of wisdom and a very knowledgeable person. It's very difficult to assimilate and to introduce him properly because his work in the field of medical education spreads over the last 30 odd years. He's published extensively. He was also the chief editor of CVU's last book, Global Medical Education in Normal and Changing Times, which has almost hit about 11,000 hits or downloads in last 1 year. So Shahid has many attributes and is currently working as the Associate Dean of the American University of Barbados, which I had the pleasure of founding in 2012. Shahid is an expert in accreditation as well. I mean, American University of Barbados got accreditation for 3 or 5 years through Shahid's efforts. So to you, Shahid, welcome. And this is a very interesting topic. Even the title itself, Tpack, and you have to start from there as to what it is and then go on to discuss in detail. Over to you.
Thank you, Professor Zadi and Kiran, and thank you for inviting me for this webinar. And thank you very much for I'm really humbled with the introduction, and I'm lucky my wife was listening to that, and I was telling her with my body language, then don't ask me to cook because Prof. Zadi has declared me a scholar now, so I'm no more a chef for you, okay? So that's just because cooking is my hobby and I do that out of fun. But anyway, that was just kidding. So I welcome you all. This webinar on Tpack and hybrid teaching is very important for all of you, especially after the post-COVID era. The need was felt during the COVID, where many institutions were shut down either for the teaching learning delivery or the assessment. Many school has abandoned assessment because they couldn't cope up with the technology if their faculty was not prior trained prior to the exposure to this unprecedented challenge of the COVID pandemic. I'm Shahid Hassan, and today we are going to explore how to design a resilient and effective classroom for tomorrow's and starting it from today. So you all can look back to your lesson plans. How do you deliver and what really is needed to be accommodated to meet the challenge of the hybrid era where everything should be readily available online for emergency remote teaching, which another pandemic or pandemic-like situation may arise again. With this, let's begin by revising the context of this session. In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, education system around the world faced an unprecedented shift. Classrooms moved online almost overnight, forcing us to rethink how to teach, what we teach, and the tools that we use to teach. This disruption challenged our comfort zones, but it also offered us an opportunity. And I tell you, we work as a team, and we research a lot during the COVID, and also we publish it for the community sharing. Many of us realize that simply moving content online, simply moving the content online wasn't enough. What was truly needed was thoughtful integration of content, pedagogy, and technology. And that's where the Tpack framework becomes so relevant to us. The learning outcome achieved by the participant here who are attending would be, I have tried to cover all the 6 cognitive domains through this presentation on Tpack. So first would be the describes the core components of the Tpack and how they apply in health profession education. Second, demonstrate the faculty training in online instructional design for emergency remote teaching, which may happen again, who knows. Analyze the faculty hybrid capacity for resilience and flexibility in curriculum online delivery. All faculty must be ready with this emergency remote teaching where they may be called upon to deliver. Integrate content, pedagogy, and technology for enhanced students' learning. This is something which is level 6. You will be able to know how do we integrate these 3 components in teaching and learning. Discuss practical case examples to implement. The time permits, I will take you through one of the practical example that we deliver bedside teaching online. It will be amazing, but the article, this research was published, so you can read through the article, which I'll show the link. And if Hassan is attending also, he can share the link on chat box. So that was the most read article during the COVID, bedside teaching online. Why this topic? We discuss how we going to discuss how the pandemic impacted curriculum delivery and how hybrid format become not just optional, but now is essential. The Tpack defines 3 knowledge domains. We have to remember Tpack, content, pedagogy, and technology, right? So these are the 3 domains and explain why balancing all these 3 are so crucial. And though it was mentioned, it was in literature, it was researched by many authors, but the real need was felt during and after the COVID era. So when we look at the content knowledge, the subject matter expertise that we all are engaged for, like my time, Prof. Zadi time, we were never asked whether I can teach or not, whether I can use the technology or I have the capacity to use the technology in my teaching, never was asked. I was taken into institution and teaching institution based on my subject area, which was ENT head and neck surgery. Similarly, you all were, but now they are during the interview, they also make sure, particularly post-COVID, they will make sure, institution will make sure that beside your expertise, you know how to teach and you know how to choose the tools to teach. The pedagogical knowledge, how students learn best, how the best adult learns is very important for you to not only deliver, but for you to deliver and make it a long-term memory for the students. And there are ways to bring, because remember, whenever we receive an information, all goes to the short-term memory, right? That's what the mechanism is, the neuroscience. So short-term memory, the memory will not last more than 7 to 10 days. Whatever you do, it will not last. You see students are so bubbling with knowledge during the exam, and when they are waiting for their internship, 8, 9 months after, they have lost almost everything, and the hospitals complain. What kind of student have you sent? They know nothing. But the reason for that is they have learned through a system where most of things went to the short-term memory. To bring to long-term memory, we need experiential learning is a very good example. We need reflective practice is another good example. And we need learning with fun involving technology for having post sessions exercises given online. So these are the way where we can bring from short-term memory with an interface to bring it to the long-term memory. The third is the technological knowledge, tools, and platform that support learning has become very, very important now. Not because we might have to be called to teach online during which we call hybrid teaching. Hybrid is where your presentation, your teaching is available for the two group of students or participants, those who are physically present with you or those who are attending you online, versus blended learning. So the major difference between the blended learning is that all are present physically, but some of your delivery may come with the in presence, physical in the physical presence of the audience, and some of the work or task or maybe some of the part of the delivery you may take them online to deliver. So that's blended, right? But in hybrid, we have two separate group attending you from two different places. So that's the major difference between the blended and hybrid, and our focus would be hybrid learning, where you may be called upon to teach online due to disruption of being everybody physically present. This diagram is essential. It shows the overlap. You see, it's a Venn diagram. In Venn diagram, you use circles, and where they overlaps are the important areas. So if you look at, and I'll give you a bigger picture of this. When you look at this, bear with me for this smaller version of the picture, but I think with my slides on, I'll have bigger pictures. So if you see, there are three overlaps, right? So it's not the content, pedagogy, and technology with the overlaps, with the pedagogy overlapping with the content knowledge, technology with the pedagogy, and then technology, the content with the technology. So essentially, it is a dynamic process by this overlapping. So pedagogical content knowledge, technological content knowledge, and one is the pedagogically content knowledge, uh, pedagogy and content put together, then technology and content put together, and technology and pedagogy could. So it may be a little confusing for you, but look at the picture and I'll explain it more when I get with the bigger picture of this. Now, the post-COVID technical and learning adjustments revealed our vulnerability during the COVID in educational delivery. This slide sets the urgency for flexible teaching models and introduces the purpose of integrating Tpack. Okay, so we need to have all the modalities readily available to us. Example I'll give you will make you understand better. So one of the example, because whenever I give an example from my clinical side, basic sciences faculty is not happy. So I have started because it's not medical education, it's health profession education. I remember in one of the presentation in Pakistan, when I said medical education, some of the group sitting behind stood up and started leaving the hall. I said, why are you leaving? And they said, we are dentists. You said medical education. So we thought you are you are a health profession educator. That day I realized we call ourselves as a medical educator, we are health profession educator. So there on, I have started putting up putting on the my presentations, catering the basic sciences need as well. So two examples here I will choose from the basic medical sciences and clinical sciences to introduce here to explain how physiology and clinical skills class can shift from lecture to active learning using simulation, clickers, or the whiteboard apps. So take an example here, teaching physiology online. Your content, which you are, as a physiologist, you are the expert, content knowledge, concepts like cardiovascular, you're supposed to teach on a topic cardiovascular regulation. Fine enough, you are expert, nobody will challenge you on that. You are the best person. But what about your pedagogy you have used? Use of case-based learning or flipped classroom perhaps will be a better idea than delivering it through a lecture, right? So if you start, even if you start with a lecture, a case-based lecture or a lecture-based case, either you present a case in the beginning or at the end, we call case-based lecture or lecture-based case, or better would be use a flipped classroom. Give them material to come prepared with, and then you use classroom for interactive sessions like in TBL, case-based discussion, or problem-based learning. Okay, moving on to technology, interactive simulations perhaps will be a good idea to explain to them, make them hear the heart sounds and all, right? Show them videos, virtual whiteboards you can use, polls you can use for the as in a cloud or Slido to test their prior knowledge. Example from the clinical skills would be, and clinical teaching of communication skills may discuss digital tools like virtual patients, now telehealth platforms, and the video-based feedback to maintain clinical learning continuity using teaching strategies of role-playing and reflective practice. This has become so important. I was talking to one of my colleague in Dallas Apna meeting. She was telling me that she's a family physician, and she said she is practicing telemedicine now. And she was so happy. And she said, one day a week I do, but she intended to increase it to another 2 days. I said, why? She said, last time when I used to examine in my family medicine practice, examine the patients, for example, the examination of the ear, external ear using otoscope, she admitted that she would hardly see properly the drum, the forget about the ossicles and all and the impressions behind the drum. But she said now in telemedicine, I'm projected with the patient's drum and the external ear examination so detailed that she said she could have never imagined doing it when she would be delivering in clinics. So telemedicine has become so important. So we have to keep that in mind, okay? Moving on, faculty may resist change and overcome this support system in terms of mentorship, workshops, and technology help does. So it's the duty of the institution if there is a faculty resistance, because I remember during the COVID, in my department alone in surgery, 3 or 4 of the faculty members resigned because they didn't like the technology so overwhelmingly involved in teaching. So they left the job. But challenge is challenge. You must take a challenge and you must learn the new norms. So here, this is a message here that, and besides teaching and learning, teaching and assessment, that was the faculty duties that we all knew that. But during the COVID, we realized the research and publications are the more responsibility of the faculty members, where we shared our experiences with other, and in the process we published some of the research for bedside teaching. One of the proud moment that we discovered, and many colleagues of mine discouraged me, how can you even imagine clinical skills teaching on online? What motivated me, if you look at the theories behind the models, the concepts, those are very motivating. So I was thinking, if the clinical teaching is totally abandoned, how are students are going to move on? So then I was looking at the Bloom taxonomy, didn't offer me anything. When I looked at the Miller's clinical skills competency pyramid, if you remember, 4 steps: know how, show how, know how, and then the third was the know how, and then the demonstration and show how. So 4 steps, right? So I realize that this Miller's pyramid of clinical skills competency offers us still to teach online, because show how, which is the real performance, which most of the undergraduate level, most of the students wouldn't do it because they don't carry the license to practice. They attend patients through our lessons. So show how, forget. There are three levels are less: demonstrate, and know, and know how, right? So I said, what if we forget for a moment, show how, show how, yeah. Show how is the demonstration, and does is performing in real situation. So four steps of the Millers: know how, show how, and does. Okay. So I thought, if we can still teach at two levels the Millers, know and know how. For example, students are not with us in a clinic to demonstrate on a patient to examine thyroid. But what if I ask him online, can you explain how to examine thyroid? Right? Or even we can role play. Somebody in the family, he can make him sit in the chair and can examine and demonstrate also. So it will be virtual demonstration. So I thought the teaching doesn't stop. So you have to think of the theory concepts behind and exploit them to your need. Okay. So the institutional leaders and senior management must institutionalize support with the generous investment in terms of grant schemes, integrated technology experts team with the faculty, teaching faculty, and faculty recognition for innovations. Some of the faculty are very thoughtful, mindful, and they have done their best during the COVID. So their research should be respected by the institution, and those were some of the research that we saw help the vast community during the COVID era. Now let's take the closer look at how the theoretical Tpack framework serve as a foundation in course lesson planning, particularly in a digital supported environment. So that would be I'll go quickly because this webinar doesn't allow me to stay on to each slide longer. So I'll give you some of the theoretical aspects. The theory and concepts and model and frameworks are very important for you as the guide. So here you see TPAC is not just a theory. It is a practical guide for educators designing digital instructions. It emphasizes the integration of technology, pedagogy, and content knowledge, helping faculty members strike the right balance. This is very important. Instead of, you shouldn't be overwhelmed with the technology and forget the content. That would really not work, right? So instead of adding technology as an afterthought, TPAC encourages to think critically, not as an afterthought. It is during your lesson planning. You should be sure what technology are you going to use. So the theories that was applicable here was constructivist theory, which means making the learning meaningful, experiential learning, where they can have a hands-on experience. Social constructivists in collaborative learning online is something very, very important. Then andragogy, which is part of the pedagogy and aligns program with faculty need for autonomy. We claim so much self-directed learning, student-centered learning, but in practice, when I'm part of the accreditation team, when I go to a school, first thing I ask them, give me your timetable. So when I look at the timetable and I do not find free slots in the timetable for 8 hours the students working on campus, I ask them, where is the student-centered learning you claim here in timetable? So make sure that you should have as many free slots or self-directed learning slots in your timetable, as many committed slots with active learning classroom teaching. That's very important for accreditation person visiting a school. If those are not provided in timetable, your self-directed student-centered learning may be challenged. Okay. Moving further on, so instead of adding technology as an afterthought, TPAC encourages us to think, what content am I teaching, right? That's good. You are expert. You can teach the way you expertise you have. What pedagogical strategy fits best to teach? And more importantly, now in post-COVID and during the COVID, is and what technological tool will enhance this combination of pedagogy, meaning the teaching learning strategies of method and the content. This is very important because some technology used to combine them would enhance learning, would engage your learners better than they were engaged before in your class. Digitalization provides a lens to design meaningful, responsive teaching where technology isn't just add-on, but it's purposefully chosen to support how we teach and what we want the students to learn. In today's session, we will explore how to adopt this mindset, not just for crisis response like in emergency remote teaching, like a COVID pandemic crisis, but for building resilient and future-ready educators practice. Okay, that's important. And then once you are trained in technology, you can use it in your on-campus sessions as well. Never forget the Bloom's taxonomy here. So I have just intentionally put it because I didn't cover it in theory behind. And I thought probably you all might forget. This is something which is, you see, the Bloom's taxonomy book is the most read book in the world. Do you know that? And so why it's important until now? Because sixth level, it demonstrates that cognitive level is so much helpful in your lesson plan. So Tpack under a bigger umbrella provides integration between the technology, pedagogy, and content knowledge to keep a balance between what, how, and what technology we involve in teaching. SAMR SAMR model is also important because SAMR model incorporates technology as a direct substitute, right? It's a direct substitute, now is an essential, okay? Keep in mind. Function add-on, it add-on to enhance learning to engage your students. Significant competency redesigning and redefining to demonstrate new tasks, right? Some of the tasks, for example, in TBL, we give them a task and we ask them to do collaboratively as in a group. And we use IRAT and TRAT. You must have heard, I didn't have the time to put TRAT that we have been using prior to COVID, scratch cards. Then we found the scratch card, students are not coming, so we should develop a digital version of the TRAT. The TRAT or the GRAT, the group or the team readiness assurance test that is essential components of the TBL. So those were invented and those were very much practiced, but maybe in a workshop, maybe I can demonstrate how we do that. So as I said, Bloom's taxonomy should never be forgotten. With all those components of the Tpack, we must be guided by the sixth level cognitive domains. Even you see the learning outcome I defined for this session, I chose all six levels for you. You can go back, you can, when the videos is released, you can go back and see how I designed six learning outcomes for this. Okay, but that should be very relevant. It shouldn't be like I put those six and I didn't address. So that will be a failure on my part, okay? So the Bloom's taxonomy, which serves to design and develop the lesson plan in competency-based medical education, we all are moving. We all are moving toward, we like it or not. Traditional, conventional teaching is no more will be acceptable because the world is fast moving towards the competency-based medical education with EPAs and milestones well defined, and the milestones in terms of not only level of training, but also the level of achievement. So those are something you should keep in mind and be aware of. Now, this slide highlights how digital tools can be purposefully aligned with each stage of the learning process, reflecting the shift towards meaningful digital integration rather than simply digitalizing your traditional methods. We begin with the learning outcomes as the first step, the ultimate goal. The tools we choose must serve that outcome, right? You can you can start your session with Slido, Cloud, and other method to test their prior knowledge. For the hook platforms like YouTube and the Portone, these are the hook. You see, sometimes your lecture gets too long. And by the time you see some of these students are either not interested, they are playing with their mobile, or they are sleeping, they are dozing, and they are not as active as you when you started with your session. So poor tune could be one of that, which is the hook, like you can hook them back into your sessions, right? So those you can use. There's a link here, but I'm so sorry I cannot demonstrate that, but this link is very important. That later you can click and see how hook works. Okay. So, besides this, in the instructional phase, the screen cast and the Google Slides help deliver content in an accessible, replayable format. These supports both synchronous and asynchronous learning. This has become very important after the COVID and during and after the COVID. Asynchronous learning is very important. So if you use all these tools, the students can go back and replay all those and then can reflect on. So we use interactive tools like in practice like H5P to develop our micro teaching videos, which were very useful, and we were trained to use how to use H5P to create micro learning videos and insert quizzes in it. Okay, and then other work the for the feedback, Google Forms offer you best. Don't go for a very hi-fi tool, right? Find out the tool which you are comfortable with, which you can use, which you are trained to work with, instead of developing your understanding with new tools which may be not very easy for you to handle. So handle those tools which is available to you or have easy access and you have understanding. Like in Moodles, your learning management system, Moodles offer you a lot to do, right? You can run the entire course on Moodle. Okay. Uh, so little bit on the history, looking at the historical background, how the Tpack was invented in two different succession of the time and the authors. So pedagogical content knowledge was coined by the content, pedagogy and the content. Why? Mind you, that was coined by Lee Shulman in 1980s to emphasize subject matter knowledge. So the most dependence reliance was on content knowledge experts. It's about teaching strategies to teach needs to effectively teach, deliver the content from areas of a teacher's expertise. Added to this was another knowledge domain by Ronia Mishra and the Matthew Coelho from Michigan State University in 2006. So imagine it was long ago before the COVID happened. The added new component was to meet the requirement of 21st century teaching called the technological knowledge. So that become essential now. Okay. Now, looking at these two, slightly bigger picture, you see the overlaps. No, there were three, initially to start with, three areas that we are focused on, and we are integrating them together to deliver our teaching learning topics in teaching topics in teaching learning and assessment. So one is technology, is the content knowledge, pedagogical knowledge, meaning the teaching learning strategies, and the technological knowledge. Three circles, bigger circles. Where they meet, there is an overlap. This overlap is pedagogical content knowledge, right? So pedagogy and content meets at a certain area of overlap. Technology and content knowledge, and technology and pedagogical content knowledge. But you see in the center, there is another overlap where all three meets, right? Not one to one, they all three meets, and this is the sweet area that we are looking for in our development of the lesson plan. So adding technology to pedagogy and content made it three areas knowledge domains by Mishra and Matthews. Four more components were added to make framework called Tpack as a result of interaction of three sets of the knowledge domains. Right? Let's have a practical application. Now from here onwards, you are getting good information how you can move from your traditional lecture or the conventional lecture to ultimately develop a lesson plan which is used for a hybrid delivery and assisted by Tpack or AI assisted lesson plan. Okay, I'll talk until that point. So let us start with a lecture. You have a lecture you have been delivering day and night in your course delivery in your respective areas. Now, my first thing for you would be to change your conventional lecture into an interactive lecture. So take the example of the PBL, where lecture is not there, but you can have a TBL, a good example, where you convert a long lecture into a mini lecture. So try to choose a model. TBL is the best fit model. Convert your lecture into a TBL format. First step, right? Keep in mind, I'll give you the algorithm at the end, which I haven't shared is part of my coming up book, but and micro credential course. But I will share with you because those who are attending are dear to me, and I'll share that, and that will serve as a good flow chart for you at the end. I'll give you, okay? So first thing will be try to develop your lecture into a TBL format. Best example. So here the instruction, this is the storyboard kind of, right? But I have given a name, a template, but this template will serve you to develop from your traditional lecture into ultimately a hybrid lesson plan incorporating TPAC. So instructor name, subject area, class grade, date, duration, learning objective, materials needed, instructional activities, instruction or the grouping, a small group or a large group class, assessment strategy and reflection. So these are supposed to be part and parcel of our lecture, but most of the time we deliver PowerPoint and we do not care for all this. So this slide shows the basic structure of a conventional lesson plan, which many of us are familiar with, and it provides a systemic format for planning instruction, ensuring that the key components of effective teaching are addressed. Let's walk through each section, which I have done already, okay? So you can go through it again to have a closer look. So it's a storyboard, but I named it as a template for you. But then you have to have a checklist also after the lecture you have developed as a conventional lecture, and then develop into a interactive lecture as a TBL format. So this slide shows a checklist for the basic conventional lesson plan template. It covers the essential components for planning a lesson, such as objective, materials, activities, and assessment. While used for structure, in structure, it does not really explicitly include technology. As we consider TPAC, we will look at how to embed technology meaningfully into each of these sections, right? So this, so you have this one, the template, the storyboard, and then from conventional lecture, this is a conventional lecture, change it to a TBL format where you will have some kind of, let me have the conventional first. So your lecture, conventional lecture, then a checklist to see that your conventional lecture also follows some regulation, some format, okay? It's not free of format. Okay. Now, limitation of the traditional lesson will be, here I present the limitation of the conventional lesson plan, a familiar format that helps instructor organize their teaching. While it ensures structure and clarity, it often lacks explicitly giving the prompts for integrating technology or aligning with the pedagogy and content. So that's the flaw of the traditional lecture. So now we are moving this conventional lecture into a digitalized phase. So best would be to change your lecture that you're delivering through your PowerPoint into a TBL format. So some element of digitalization will appear here. So transition to digital lesson plan becomes especially useful in faculty training with instructional design. Instructional design is something where you need an expert, but you should be expert as a teacher to the extent where you can make your teaching learning experience meaningful for the students. For example, when deciding on whether to use Zoom, Padlet, or LMS, Moodle or LMS, for example, the selection isn't random. It should be aligned with the teaching strategy and the type of the content. So, for example, you want a breakout room, probably Zoom will be a good idea, right? You want some interactive sessions, hands on them to do. LMS would be a good idea or offer you a lot. Padlet can be used for example, performing hands on as well as collaborative learning as well as flow, I mean, the group discussions. So you can use all this, okay? Now, as we move forward, we will explore how this traditional format can be enhanced using the digital platform and tools, encouraging more thoughtful and effective digital integration in the lesson plan. So we have moved from traditional lecture to an interactive lecture using the TBL format and then digitalizing it using, for example, GRAT you have used in TBL, and the list given here. So the storyboard or the template would be title of the session, duration, target learners, learning objective, pre-class activities, in-class activities that TBL is known for, then post-class activities, assessment strategies, technology tools use, engagement strategies. So this gives you, and the most important, reflection. Reflection become mandatory for digitalized lecture delivery because that brings your short-term memory information to long-term memory. Okay. Um, so moving on, sometimes my slide is stuck. Okay. From a standard template for conventional lesson plan, we move on to accommodate post-COVID 21st century learning. Tpack guides instructors to structure their teaching effectively, from setting clear learning objectives to selecting materials, planning instructions, activities, determining the digital tool, and outlining assessment. Though random digitalization of conventional method we observe when we were not using the TPAC, that it doesn't explicitly address how technology fits into my or your teaching. Okay, so that's where the TPAC comes in, helping us to think not just about what technology and how a technology would be used, but also what digital tools can best support my teaching learning experience delivery or method that I'm using. So TPAC will guide you on that. Okay.
45-minute mark.
Okay, this summarizes the steps to allow through the digitalization of the lesson plan integrated with TPAC. I have intentionally put a reflective model here. Reflection is very important. Okay. Thank you, Kiran. And why not another check the rubric to self-evaluate your lesson plan? So now you have a lesson plan which has been digitalized from the conventional to digitalized to TPAC. And then you have a rubric here I have given you to check whether how well you have performed in your preparing lesson plan, hybrid incorporating TPAC. So this will guide you self-assessment, okay, rubric. And then I will quickly run through in few slides the other three components which are essential to develop your hybrid model for teaching, because what you are delivering on campus would be easy, but to deliver, say, skills online, you need instructional design. So you have Eddie models, you have Genius model, you have Dick and Kerry and Sam model, but I like Genius, which we exploited fully during the COVID, and you can see the 9 steps were used in developing the bedside teaching online. So those steps are: gain attention, inform learners of objectives, stimulate recall, preset the content, provide learning guidance, elicit performance, provide feedback, assess performance, and enhance retention through transfer of knowledge. Reflection is the best example. Now, Genius instruction here for this, you need a structure roadmap of the instructional design and integration with TPAC. So the table I have given here, the content knowledge, when you use in Genius, presenting content actually involve event 4. Then pedagogical content knowledge using effective teaching strategies involve the step 5 to 9. And then technological knowledge using multimedia to gain attention, present content, and provide feedback involves the step 1, 4, and 7 of the Genius. We pronounce this as a Genius, not Gagnis. Genius 9 events. Okay. Now coming to hypothetical-deductive approach, which is very important. Hypothetical-deductive approach and think aloud approach is so important, right? Because when you're delivering online, there are many participants may be passive. They are not participating. So think aloud will give them some place for interaction. So hypothetical deductive approach was proposed by, I will not name here because you Google and you find every time you Google a different name would appear. But to me, it start from the long back. So without naming anyone, is the best use in a problem-solving approach to suggest solution in a collaborative learning environment. And we fully exploited this strategy in our bedside teaching during the COVID experience. Now, the steps of the hypothetical deductive strategy in a collaborative learning involved all these 5 steps, right? Then now we are moving on to think aloud. So the participants you are doing online, shouldn't one or two would be very vocal, another sitting. That's your duty to make them to think, to speak out, and they think aloud. So they are not just keeping things to themselves. They think and they speak. Think aloud is the best practice of one's metacognitive skills, thinking about your own thinking. Where and our students are very poor in that. We have an article on that. You can follow the inventory I have developed to use to know your students' metacognitive skills, where existing factual and the procedural knowledge led the students to apply to a similar or a problem in which they have the learning took place, or a different a case to apply the factual and procedural knowledge to a conditional knowledge to solve a problem. This is all about metacognitive skill. So this initiate the reflective process even before the session is over, because usually reflection is after the session. But with this model, think aloud, you can have the reflection even prior to the session. This is where the Tpack framework becomes vital. It helps, so steps in AI-assisted lesson plan. Now I'm not demonstrating, but I give you a good news that everything put together with your keywords, use an AI platform, right? There are 2 available. So put your keywords. Within a minute, your lesson plan will be ready. But I suggest you to go through the entire exercise that I have been through in this session. So from your conventional lecture to interactive lecture to digitalized lecture to Tpack assisted lecture, then move on to AI and see what you done manually was good enough. So AI assisted will bring everything in a span of time within a minute. Okay, that's a good news for you. Okay, sample AI enhanced lesson plan. I'm not expert in this. Hassan, if sitting, would be a good person to take you through. But some of the tool here I have mentioned would be useful for AI assisted. And for lesson plan, we have 2 different tools which you can use to generate your lesson plan within a minute. Okay, this is This summarizes the framework used to design a lesson plan incorporating Tpack. So it gives the entire summary, Tpack, the GENIUS, the hypothetical deductive reasoning, think aloud, and micro teaching involved in your session. And we exploited that during COVID to produce this bedside teaching online is a published one. So it's a published article you can download, and it was also was presented in one of the competition. Okay, what we learned today. Tpack framework integrate content pedagogy and technology. This brings almost end to the conventional lesson plan. It gives us a clear and structured approach to planning conventional lesson into a more Tpack assisted or interactive. But as educators in a digital era, our challenge is to go beyond structure, to intentionally integrate technology in ways that support both our content and the teaching methods. With the Tpack framework, we can take this familiar format and transform it into more dynamic one. So I'm sharing this with you. This is a flow chart. Follow this, right? Traditional lecture, to interactive lecture, to digital lecture, to TPAC assisted lecture, AI assisted lecture, and then some of the teaching learning methods involved, instructional design, Genius is the best, the basic and clinical science, and you have post-session feedback, reflection, and those theories that are in the backdrop of this session. So here I end. This is my contact, and those who want to have a contact, let's reimagine future of the teaching together. My LinkedIn link is provided here, and this is one of the uh, this is one of the micro credential course that I'm going to develop and will be available online soon. So thank you very much, and I'm ready for the questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shahid. This was very informative. Um, I'll ask everyone to either write the questions in the chat, or you can also use the raise your hand option, and I'll ask you to unmute and ask the question then. And while we are waiting on questions, I know this might be very primitive, and a lot of senior educators are here.
Kiran, before you go to ask question, a little story.
Uh-huh.
You might be of interest to someone. You
Uh-huh.
know the fable, the famous fable. Prof. Zadi will bear me out. The story of a blind and a cripple, right? Where house sets on fire, everybody ran away, and the blind and the cripple couldn't escape because they knew they are going to be burnt alive. They can't move. One can't move. The other can't find way out. So
Mhm.
they decided, blind took the cripple on his back, right? The cripple who couldn't walk showed the way, and blind, taking him on back, walked through and escaped the fire, and they both survived. So during the COVID, you all have came through this era. I'm happily telling that when my few colleagues resigned because of not coping up well the technology, I have something to look at. I have a friend, very good friend, Hassan, if he's attending here. So we both joined and we conquered the world, I tell you. During the COVID, we came up with the innovative ideas. Lot many articles we have published about the bedside teaching online, open book exam, for example, and the impact of the workshops. This all we are the published work, but we shook hand with each other. We were friends before, but not as intimate friend as professional friends. So we became professional friends, but I'll not tell you who was blind or who was crippled among both of us. Okay, you have to decide. Okay, but this friendship works so well. I'm proud of having Hasnan. He's attending here.
Yes.
Yes,
So
yes,
yeah.
he is. And that
Okay.
is an excellent story to share, and it's very
Okay.
motivating for the rest of us as
Okay.
well.
Over to you, Prof. Zadi and
This
Kiran.
is an experiential learning experience, I think.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's a
Miss,
famous story. I think there's
Mr.
lots of scholars I see. Kiran, would you like to
Yeah,
ask these people to unmute and ask
yes,
questions? It's a
I did.
fascinating,
I believe,
fascinating lecture.
yeah, I believe like there is like I don't see any questions in the chat. Is anyone, if you have any questions, please go ahead, raise your hand or unmute yourself. Please go ahead
Maybe
and.
Hasnan can ask
Yeah,
a
Hasnan can chip in with the AI assisted lesson plan. Hasnan,
Okay,
it's
there's a question from
yeah,
Muhammad.
yeah, sure, sure.
It's like first he gives thanks, and then I'm very interested in doing research to define the extent of AI engagement in health education in a way it doesn't become counterintuitive. Any thoughts?
Okay. I think everybody is moving on, and we had a survey in Barbados where higher education made a survey visiting all the medical school, asking us how much would you allow AI use to students, right? And they were actually looking at whether which curriculum or which university or which program says, oh, we are not allowing it. So when as an educator, I was asked this question. I say, well, I'm a strong proponent of using AI. We will never stop our students using AI, but we will make adjustments and allow them to use. The first suggestion will be faculty should also be trained in AI use so that they know how to monitor students. For example, we had the assignments. So before the AI, we had assignments, and that was supposed to be marked by the examiners, the evaluators, and we give them marks, and that was part of their summative assessment. But after the AI, we realized that students, whether we like it or not, must have been getting assistance through Chat GPT and all, and getting. So what we didn't stop them. We asked them two things to do. With this assignment, you will have to present it and defend the peer questions and the supervisor questions. So do assignment. We don't mind. You use Chat GPT or AI because after all, that is assisting in your advancing your knowledge and skills. But present this. So presentation would carry quite good marks in weightage. And then we also asked them to write a summary, which of the Chat GPT you used. That was very tricky, right? To use which Chat GPT you use and which format do you use help you more than the other. So give a summary. So with this we allowed. So I think AI we can't stop. We have to move forward, or we lag behind. Like I said, many of my colleagues couldn't cope up well, and they with the invent of technology they gave up. No, we shouldn't, right? So it's a good idea, and I said as a good news at the end, as a long process I took you through. But when you develop at the end, and then the same lesson plan that you have developed to the exercise I gave you, you feed the right keywords and use a AI platform, it will generate your lesson plan within seconds. So Hassan can speak more.
What I feel is we've discussed it before also. Hassan gave a wonderful talk that AI is here to stay, and
Yeah,
I think
that's right. It's a
every
new
day,
norm, sir. It's a new norm.
yeah, it is regularly being upgraded. I was watching a program on TV yesterday only, where they were saying that in the schools and colleges and everywhere, they're integrating AI into regular curriculum now.
Correct.
I think it's a matter of time because there's still argument about the ethical aspects and who should control it. And we discussed that in Hasnan's lecture a couple of weeks ago. My point here is that with this technology and pedagogy combined together, like you mentioned, your talk, very comprehensive, will these old traditional values such as the established norms, the cognitive domains or skills, psychomotor, will they be modified? Will you add another layer to them, like technological layer?
Yeah, so those will be modified, but those will exist. So I think a good teacher need will remain always be there. But if a good teacher also update his teaching learning, incorporating technology or Tpack gives a good framework, which is a framework where living within that framework, when I do not be using technology should not be done overwhelmingly, because if we do that, we sometimes may undermine our content, right? So not too much focus on technology. There is a limit to it, right? So your content should not undermine, but there definitely will be a modification needed to modify some of the moral values in your teaching learning, for example, ethics, your reflection, your feedback, how to give feedback, how to receive feedback, and how to act on upon feedback and reflection. All this will be modified using the technology.
Okay, we have another question. How can educators practically balance all three domains of TPAC when
Yeah.
designing lessons, especially in resource limited or low tech environments?
Okay, good question, because I would not recommend. You see, there was two slides where I emphasize on the institutional support. Institutional support is very much needed. Deprive in resources institution, we shouldn't expect. They have to work on, they have to go on, they have to move on. But the faculty, now you see, resources, learning is not limited. Our time, we used to be dependent on library books. My parents couldn't afford Gray's Anatomy. which was worth of heavy pounds. So we had to depend on library where our turn will come 12 copies of the Grey's Anatomy, 120 students in my class, and then imagine later on there were over 300 students. How we were, so the teachers were the actually everything to us. They were our book, they were our library, so we couldn't afford to miss our teachers' classes. But now everything is available on a hand distant click. I feed the right keywords, I click and get the best. If I miss a lecture, I can get a better lecture online available to me. So that's there. So we have to understand this fact. Students are no more dependent on your lecture, I tell you. Particularly some of the lecturers who have developed their lecture many years back and they are not updating and delivering it again and again with subsequent cohorts they are receiving. That's not a good idea because they are online. They have an online access to all this, and they sometimes are more read than us. See, the experience between a novice and an expert is not that as a teacher, I have read more books and my students have read less. They might be more read. But the difference is I'm exposed to more of the patients or the cases compared to them. So when a patient walks in, with the pattern recognition, I can tell you what the diagnosis is, but my student cannot because he has to go through the analytic reasoning to give a diagnosis. So similarly, a balance has to be kept, keeping, as the Prof. Zadi also asked this question, the morals behind of a good teaching of a good teacher, but still not that a teacher should ignore the technology altogether. So has a balance, and technology deprived institutions. I think there's a message for the institution, the senior management, to get those technology available to your teacher. Teacher cannot. Some of those tools are available free online, but many not. Right. So those some basics has to be procured by the administration. So funding, I said, generous funding is needed also, but nevertheless, the institution role is there to provide all those. But faculty shouldn't wait for the institution to train them. They can go online and get all this training. Hope I have answered
Okay.
your question.
Yes,
Yeah.
and our next question is basically about the assessment of reflection.
Right.
How to do, like how to assess basically.
Okay, that's very close to my heart. Reflection. I think when you look at as I said, gave you an example, when information comes to students, it goes to the short-term memory. So there has to be a mechanism to bring it to the long-term memory. Experiential cycle is one of the best. So experiential cycle, it's up to you, teacher, to teach them to deliver your topic, your lecture through an experiential using experiential cycle mode. So experiential cycle will have 6 steps. Context, right? Use authentic patient, real patient as the best. If not, then a very close to authentic patient a case. So context is a case of patient. Then give them the case to work up with it based on their prior knowledge. So trigger their prior knowledge with your case given. Then as they work up, for example, I asked one of the students to examine the thyroid in the neck, right? She examines based on the prior knowledge she has. Then present is reflection. Okay. Here, this reflection is during the teaching. That's one aspect of the reflection. So we give them a task and then ask them to present is the reflection. When they reflect, give them feedback. Step 4. After the feedback, they will develop so context, prior knowledge, experience, reflection, feedback, and number 6 would be new knowledge. So they will develop new knowledge and they will go read further on. So this is very important. This is one way of reflection which you inculcated in your teaching learning practice. The other would be post session. Post session use the Gibbs model, which is also 6 steps, right? So event, how it went, or what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, what next they will do, how prepared they will come, and what action they will take. So those 6 steps reflection is very important. Give them. If I have not shared, I will share the reflection template. You can use that reflection template, modify it to your topic, and then give it to the students to reflect. But this should be optional. I always make it optional because reflection is something. If the students, this also, supposing you have to determine students' continuing learning skills or behavior long, it's very difficult. There's no numeric available to say this number will are a good long learner. This is not. Is a behavior which is observed. So if you give them to reflect and make it optional, I always give them some task care. We use care here. After every lecture, in the lecture, all lecture finishes at 5 p.m. 5 p.m. we open all the lecture delivered on that day, maybe 20 or 10 or whatever, in different classes, MD 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 until 11. So the lecturer will upload 5 to 10 questions online. We call it computer assisted revision and evaluation. So here they will go online, they will answer those. Is optional. Though we insist them to do, but as in a lecture, I'll be observing them how many went to do the care without much of the compulsion and all. So those who have done voluntarily, all those, they are the continuing learner. So this is an observation I will make if I have to decide on continuing learning and if there is a marks in professionalism and all. So those who have done all these tasks, so post-session reflection using a template, Gibbs model, or giving them a task to reflect. Okay, those will be good. And this all exercises is to bring the information from the short-term memory to the long-term memory.
Perfect.
Teaching
And the
has
last,
become a yeah.
sorry, go ahead. Sorry, you were saying something.
No,
I'm
no,
sorry.
yeah. As I said, teaching has become very much, a lot of neuroscience is involved in it, a lot of cognition values involved in it, technology involved, pedagogy involved. Is not mere a content expert would deliver and will give best. You may deliver, right? You may deliver, but what if they have a better options available on a distant hand click to go online and download a better lecture than what we are delivering? So we have to understand that and bear with it. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to, these are the last two questions we are going to take, but I'll request all the participants to use the link that I've shared in the chat to register for certificates. We will be mailing out certificates if you actually registered using that form that is in the chat basically. So the
Okay.
second last question is,
Yeah.
what are the
Uh, uh,
common
can I take this question later on? I can see Hasnan is there.
Yes, sir.
Hasnan, because somebody asked about the AI
Yeah.
assisted
So,
lesson
Okay.
sure.
planning.
Yeah.
Hasnan, can you say a few words and then I take the two questions, Kiran? Would that be
Yes,
okay?
yes, please,
Okay.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
actually, I just gave a webinar this afternoon to Iranian audience where I shared some of the tools. Nowadays, even a Google Doc will have AI features or even normal latest Word document. And when you give prompt, it will generate lesson plan properly. And just to let you know about AI thing like assessment, a lot of institutions, they are providing the scale. Like if you declare that I did not use any AI, which to me personally is not practically applicable because most of applications will have some AI features already. And then if you use AI for planning, or if you use AI for collaboration, or you use full AI, or you use AI at exploration level where you solve your real life problems. So if you categorize according to this scale, then the weightage of your assessment will vary. That's one thing. Second thing I would like to highlight, like about the students who will be receiving the new cohorts, new badges, they already will be at AI fluent because from grade one, a lot of countries, they are putting in their curriculum, as Prof. Shabi already highlighted. So they are already aware about AI, they already literate about AI, and they are fluent in using AI for solving the problems. So once we receive them, we have to go higher order than what they have covered in their school or college level. So that's what I would like to highlight. And if you want one tool to explore, just search Brisk Teaching. I will share the link. and you install the free plugin in your Chrome, whichever website you're reading, ask AI to generate lesson plan for you. Within 2 minutes, it will generate for you. Over
Yeah.
to you, Prof.
Thank you, Hassan, for your input. And back to Kiran.
Yes, thank you so much. And sorry, I didn't see Dr. Hasnan was about to say something. Okay, so the second last question is, what are the common pitfalls or misconceptions educators face in applying TPAC framework?
Okay, some of those are, for example, first thing will of the concern would be if somebody asks this question, if the institution is not providing with all the platforms prescribed one or the tools made available for usability. For example, nowadays to do item analysis and all is a cumbersome job. We have to look at the teacher's workload as well, right? So the teacher workload actually can be minimized, can be reduced using the technology. Now, exams of 145, I shouldn't use those names of those tools, but I'm just giving an example because I'm not e-learn expert or person trained in IT, but my experience is through those tools that we have been using. In Barbados, we use and we use ExamSoft to its fullest in not only uploading the exam questions, but also giving them a breakout, the exam question breakout in terms of Bloom taxonomy, in terms of level of their training, and a lot others. And then we generate the metrics, which tells us about the item analysis performance. And then based on that knowledge, we actually develop assessment evaluation report. Each faculty have to submit. Some of the students who, you see, we do not look at these. The time is gone where a faculty would claim that 80% pass, so we have achieved the learning outcome, right? This is what it is. Now, competency-based medical education, imagine even if you, for example, fix 70% students passing would be acceptable to the, or 80% or whatever to the senior management. But what about those 20% fail? Are they not your responsibility? So 20% fail, why are you happy that institution has achieved? Those who have entered your program are all the cream of the cream medical students who enter medical. They are the good students. Yet 20% or 80 or even more fail. Isn't it a responsibility of the faculty? So this has become very important in competency-based medical education scenario where we practice and all students are our responsibility to the extent even students, they have different pace of learning. They cannot grasp the information as others. Some are intelligent, diligent, some are slow learners, some are fast learners. I don't say they are not intelligent. If they were not, how they entered the program or the school. So they are good students, but they are slow learners. So what we are doing for them? So in ABU, American University of Barbados, we have decelerated program for those students, right? A decelerated program which they can choose for themselves if they are having problem in coping up, or faculty will finger point that such and such students are not doing well, looking at the exam performance a couple of times, and then we put them in decelerated program, special coaching, special assistance. And believe me, last year we have 5 decelerated students who joined the mainstream. Of course, they left behind the group or the cohort they entered in the program, but they were among the good students in the subsequent cohort they joined because of the decelerated program. So this is a very important. What was the question? I lost my track. Kiran?
Yeah, the question was basically that, what are the common pitfalls and
Yeah,
misconceptions?
so common pitfalls is in using of the TPAC that tools are not provided to you at institutional level. Support is not provided to you. Your innovation is not taken care of, right? So, for example, you come up in a novel idea which is not in literature before, and you come up in your small little institute and with your learning experience, something which is valuable for the community sharing and all, the institutions to support that. The faculty training is the most important thing in TPAC, technology training. e-learning unit, at least, not if not department, e-learning unit should be provided with the instruction designers, for example. And the instruction designers are very helpful because some of the program now are ODL, online program. So those program, if say a faculty is expected to develop ODL, many will give up. They will say, no, we are not, because ODL is something which requires a regulation, a format, a protocol. So a structural designer is needed for that. So those supports are the flaws or the pitfalls in our hindrances in the implementation of the TPAC. So technology, after all, not something that you'll read through and you'll get it. You have to read through, you have to master it, but you have to have the equipment as well. You have to have the tool as well. So all of those are not free. And if everybody start using in faculty on their own, for example, naturally, everybody will not be going to buy Moodle or ExamSoft or 145 or other. So in that case, the implementation of the TPAC would be difficult. So the faculty has to sit down, and senior management has to sit down and provide within the resources. And don't go, as I said, don't go for hi-fi equipments, right? Those who are free, available online, use them first. If not, then within the budget, living within the budget, acquire for those tools.
Perfect.
Okay.
The last question is, where can we procure grants for education related projects?
World over, there are grants. You start with the institution, the university in a level, then you have the national level, you have the, every country has its own. We have, like in Malaysia, we have a FRGS grant, basic sciences, and those are heavily funded grants, right? So it depends on your proposal, how strong your proposal, you have to compete. So the grants are available. I will share letter through the SIB forum. Some of those grants, they offer a research grant to scholars, right? And those are group. They you can claim as in a group, as an individual also. But those grants are available at all levels. Look at your university institution first, and national, international level. But then you have to have a proposal of that level also, because you'll be competing with hundreds of proposals submitted for those grants. So if you can make it, you will. So proposal is one of the, so research proposal, how do you develop with a very catchy kind of executive summary and all, where initial, initial the shortlisting, you succeed, and then, so that's, it goes with your scholarly efforts in putting up your proposal.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I would appreciate both Dr. Hasnain as well as you, since we spoke about who's who helped who. But this was a very good presentation. We learned a lot, and hopefully in the future we'll be doing more such presentations. If you have any questions, you can actually write on the SIBU forum or email Dr. Shahid directly. He shared his email address as well. A few of the
And LinkedIn also, you can
and
approach
LinkedIn as
there.
well. Perfect. And with that, thank you so much, and everyone have a wonderful day, night, or evening, whatever is happening at your end of the world. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank
Bye
you,
bye.
everyone. And thank you
Thank you.
for your presence.
Thank you.